Emma still remembered the sound of the clock ticking on the kitchen wall. Each second felt louder than the last, like it was counting down to something she was not ready to hear. The room smelled faintly of coffee and dish soap, ordinary things that made the moment feel strangely unreal. She stood near the counter, her hands clasped together, while her mother, Linda, sat at the table with her phone in her hand. Linda did not look angry. That was what made it worse. Her face was calm, almost distant, as if she were talking about the weather and not about something that would change Emma's life. She scrolled on her phone, then looked up and sighed. "The flights are $1,000 each," Linda said, her voice steady. "That is too much." Emma swallowed. She had known this conversation was coming, but she still hoped for a different ending. She took a small step forward, her heart beating fast. "I can help," she said softly. "I don't need much. I just want to go with you." Linda shook her head slowly. "You don't understand. I am not paying that kind of money for you. If you cannot afford it, you stay behind." The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. Emma felt them hit her chest like a sudden weight. For a moment, she thought she had heard wrong. She waited for her mother to smile, to say she was joking, or to explain more. But nothing came. Emma looked at the table, at the small scratch near the edge that had been there for years. Her mind raced with thoughts she could not fully catch. She thought about family, about holidays, about how she had always believed that being together mattered more than money. She thought about how easily her mother had said it, as if leaving her behind was a simple choice. Linda stood up and walked to the sink, her back now turned. "I already booked the tickets for myself and your brother," she added. "This is not personal. It is just how things are. Not personal." The words echoed in Emma's head. She felt a tight pain in her throat, like she might cry if she spoke again. She wanted to ask why her brother mattered more. She wanted to ask why her mother never seemed to worry about leaving her out. But years of holding back had taught her one thing. Speaking up often made things worse. So she nodded. It was a small movement, almost invisible, but it took all her strength. Linda did not turn around to see it. She started washing a cup, the sound of running water filling the silence between them. Emma walked slowly out of the kitchen and into her room. She closed the door quietly, as if she did not want to disturb anyone, even though no one had followed her. She sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the floor. Her room felt smaller than usual, the walls closing in like they were listening to her thoughts. She thought about the trip. About the places they would see, the photos they would take, the memories they would make without her. She imagined her mother smiling in those pictures, standing beside her brother, while she stayed home, forgotten. A part of her felt angry, but a bigger part felt tired. Tired of trying to prove she was worth the same care. Tired of hoping for kindness that came only when it was convenient. That night, Emma barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard her mother's voice again. "If you cannot afford it, stay behind." The words replayed over and over, growing louder in the quiet darkness. She wondered if this was how her mother truly saw her. Not as a daughter, but as a problem she did not want to pay for. In the morning, Linda acted normal. She talked about packing and schedules, about how early they would need to leave for the airport. She did not mention Emma at all. It was as if the decision had erased her from the plan, and maybe from her mother's thoughts too. Emma watched from the doorway, her face calm, her emotions hidden deep inside. No one noticed the way her hands shook or how her eyes followed every movement. Inside her, something was slowly changing. The hurt was still there, sharp and real, but beneath it, a quiet feeling was growing. It was not hope yet. It was not anger either. It was the feeling that this moment mattered more than her mother realized. And whatever came next would not be what anyone expected. The morning of the trip arrived too quickly. Emma woke before her alarm, her eyes already open, staring at the pale light creeping through the curtains. For a few seconds, she forgot everything. Then reality settled in, slow and heavy. Today was the day they would leave, and she would stay. She lay still, listening to the sounds of the house. The soft thud of a suitcase being dragged across the floor. The zipper opening and closing. Her mother's voice, calm and focused, giving instructions to her brother. Every sound felt like a reminder that this was really happening. Emma got out of bed and dressed quietly. She chose simple clothes, nothing special, as if making herself small would make the pain smaller too. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the girl staring back. Her face looked pale, her eyes tired, like she had aged overnight. She stepped into the hallway. Linda was near the door, checking documents. Her brother, Kevin, sat on the couch, scrolling on his phone, excitement written all over his face. No one spoke to Emma at first. It was like she had become part of the background. "I'll call you when we land," Linda said suddenly, still not looking at her. It sounded polite, almost kind, but it felt empty. Emma nodded again. She had become good at nodding. It was easier than speaking, easier than asking questions that had no comforting answers. She wondered if her mother noticed how quiet she was, or if silence was exactly what she expected from her. When it was time to leave, Linda picked up her bag and opened the door. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of early morning and car exhaust. Kevin stood and walked out first. He paused for a second, like he might say something, then shrugged and kept going. Emma stood there, frozen. This was the moment she would remember forever. The moment the door would close, and she would be left behind. Linda turned back once, her hand on the doorframe. "Be responsible," she said. "We won't be gone long." Then she left. The door shut with a soft click, but to Emma it sounded loud, final. She stood there long after their footsteps faded. The house felt different now. Too quiet. Too empty. Like it had lost its purpose. She walked to the window and watched the car pull away. She told herself not to cry until it was gone. When it finally turned the corner and disappeared, her legs gave out, and she sat on the floor. The tears came slowly at first, then all at once. She covered her mouth so no one could hear her, even though she was alone. She felt foolish for crying, but the pain was too deep to control. It was not just about the trip. It was about every time she had felt less important. Every time she had been told, without words, that she came second. After a while, the crying stopped. Her eyes burned, her head ached, and her chest felt hollow. She stood up and walked through the house. The rooms felt unfamiliar, like she was visiting someone else's life. Her mother's bedroom was neat, the bed made perfectly. The kitchen counter still had the cup Linda had washed the night before. Emma made herself tea and sat at the table alone. The chair across from her was empty. She imagined her mother sitting there, giving advice, making plans, never once asking how Emma truly felt. Hours passed slowly. Emma tried to distract herself, but everything reminded her of what she was missing. Photos on the wall. A calendar with the trip dates circled. Messages from friends asking if she was excited to travel. She did not reply. As the day went on, something inside her began to harden. The sadness was still there, but it was changing shape. It was becoming quieter, heavier, more serious. She realized that no one was coming back to fix this for her. No apology would suddenly arrive. No message would explain everything. That realization hurt, but it also cleared her mind. By evening, Emma stood in her room again, looking around like she was seeing it for the first time. This was where she was. This was what she had. And somehow, she would have to decide what to do with it. Outside, the sky darkened. Somewhere far away, a plane was lifting into the air, carrying her family with it. Emma stood still, her hands clenched at her sides, feeling small but strangely awake. Being left behind had broken something in her. But it had also begun something she did not yet fully understand. That night, Emma did not turn on the lights in her room. She sat by the window, watching the street below, where cars passed now and then like strangers who did not know her story. Her phone lay beside her on the bed. She had checked it many times already. No messages. No missed calls. The silence felt louder than any argument. She wrapped her arms around herself and tried to make sense of what she was feeling. It was not only sadness. It was something deeper, heavier. A question that would not leave her alone. Why had it been so easy for her mother to leave her behind? Emma thought about her childhood. About the times she had tried to be good, quiet, helpful. She remembered helping in the kitchen, staying out of trouble, doing what was expected. Somewhere along the way, she had learned that asking for too much love often led to disappointment. So she learned to ask for less. That night, she finally allowed herself to think a dangerous thought. What if nothing changed because she stayed the same? The idea scared her. It sat in her chest like a small spark, uncomfortable but warm. She stood up and turned on the lamp. The light filled the room softly, pushing back the shadows. For the first time since her family left, she felt fully awake. She opened her laptop and began to look at her bank account. The number was not impressive. It never was. Still, it was something. She stared at it for a long time, doing quiet math in her head. Rent. Food. Bills. There was not much space left after that. Emma closed the laptop and laughed quietly to herself, not because it was funny, but because crying felt useless now. She realized something important in that moment. No one was going to step in and make this easier. Not her mother. Not anyone. The next morning, Emma woke with a strange sense of calm. The pain was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She made breakfast and ate slowly, thinking carefully. Every movement felt deliberate, like she was preparing for something, even if she did not yet know what. She went through her closet and pulled out things she no longer used. Clothes she had not worn in years. Shoes that still looked new. Old books she had loved once but no longer needed. She lined them up neatly on her bed and stared at them. Each item felt like a small piece of her past. As she worked, memories came back. Some were good. Some hurt. She let them come and go without stopping. By the afternoon, she had filled 2 boxes. Her arms were tired, but her mind felt clearer than it had in a long time. Emma spent the next few days in quiet motion. She picked up extra shifts at work. She accepted hours she would normally refuse. Her body ached at night, but she welcomed the exhaustion. It kept her from overthinking. It kept her focused. At work, no one noticed anything different. She smiled when she needed to. She did her job well. Inside, though, something was changing. She was no longer waiting for permission. She was not hoping someone would notice her pain and fix it. She was doing something for herself. Late one evening, she sat at the small table in her room and counted the money she had saved so far. It was still not enough, but it was closer than before. She felt a quiet pride rise in her chest. It surprised her. She had not felt that in a long time. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. A short update about the trip. A photo of a hotel room with a smiley face. Emma stared at the screen, her expression unreadable. She did not reply. She placed the phone face down and took a deep breath. For the first time, she understood something clearly. Her silence was no longer weakness. It was a choice. That night, she lay in bed and imagined her future, not as a dream, but as a responsibility. The idea scared her, but it also made her feel alive. She did not know exactly what her next move would be, but she knew one thing for sure. She would never let anyone decide her worth again. Outside, the city slept. Inside, Emma was wide awake, building something quiet and strong within herself. The decision was forming, slow and steady, like a tide pulling back before it rushes forward. And when it finally came, it would surprise everyone, including the woman who thought leaving her behind would break her. The days that followed settled into a strict routine. Emma woke up early, before the sun fully rose, and went to work with a quiet purpose. She no longer counted the hours with dread. Each shift meant progress, even if it was slow. Her body felt tired most of the time, but her mind stayed sharp, focused on one goal. At work, she took on tasks no one else wanted. Late evenings. Extra weekends. She did not complain. She reminded herself that every small sacrifice was temporary. While others talked about plans and trips, Emma stayed quiet, saving her energy. She had learned that silence could be powerful when it was chosen. After work, she walked home instead of taking a ride, even when her legs hurt. The cool air helped clear her thoughts. With every step, she felt more in control. The streets became familiar, almost comforting. They reminded her that she was moving forward, even when no one else noticed. At home, Emma listed her expenses carefully. She cut back where she could. Simple meals. No small treats. No wasted money. It was not easy, but it made her feel disciplined, steady. She was building something from nothing, and that mattered. One evening, while sorting through her boxes, she decided to sell the items she no longer needed. She took photos with her phone, wrote short descriptions, and posted them online. It felt strange, letting go of things she once valued. Still, she reminded herself that they were only objects. What she was gaining was far more important. Messages came slowly at first, then faster. A jacket sold. Then a pair of shoes. Then the books. Each sale felt like a quiet victory. Emma placed the cash in an envelope and wrote one word on it. Flight. Late at night, when the house was silent, doubt sometimes crept in. She wondered if she was being foolish. If she was pushing herself too hard for something that no longer mattered. In those moments, she remembered the sound of the door closing behind her family. The memory grounded her. One afternoon, she finally opened the airline website. Her hands trembled as she typed in the destination. She did not plan to buy yet. She just wanted to see the price. When the number appeared on the screen, her chest tightened. It was still high. Still unfair. Emma closed the laptop and leaned back in her chair. She stared at the ceiling and let out a slow breath. Giving up would have been easy. Easier than continuing like this. But she had come too far. The next weeks passed in a blur. Work. Sleep. Save. Repeat. Emma rarely checked her phone now. Messages from her mother stayed unanswered. The distance felt necessary. It gave her space to think without being pulled back into old feelings. One night, after counting her savings again, Emma realized something had changed. The number on the page matched the number she had seen on the airline website weeks earlier. She stared at it, afraid to believe it. She counted again. And again. It was enough. Her heart pounded as she opened the laptop once more. She entered the details slowly, carefully. Each click felt heavy with meaning. When she reached the payment page, she hesitated. This was the moment where fear could still win. Emma closed her eyes and thought about the girl who had been left standing in the doorway. The girl who had nodded instead of speaking. She opened her eyes and pressed confirm. The screen refreshed. A message appeared. Booking confirmed. Emma sat very still. The room felt quiet, but inside her, everything was loud. She smiled, not wide, not dramatic, but real. For the first time, she felt like she had taken something back. This was her move. And no one had seen it coming. When Linda returned home, the house felt full again, but not warm. Emma noticed the change right away. The familiar sounds were back. Luggage wheels. Doors opening and closing. Voices talking over each other. Yet something between them had shifted, quiet but permanent. Emma stayed in her room at first, listening. She could hear her mother describing the trip, the places they saw, the food they ate. Kevin laughed, adding small details. Their voices floated down the hallway like they were coming from another world. After a while, Emma stepped out. She walked into the living room calmly, her posture steady. Linda looked up, surprised, as if she had forgotten Emma would be there. "You're back," Emma said simply. Linda smiled, a tired but satisfied smile. "Yes. It was a long trip." There was a pause. Linda waited, maybe expecting questions. Emma asked none. Later that evening, while Kevin unpacked, Emma and Linda found themselves alone in the kitchen again. The same kitchen where everything had started. The memory lingered in the air. "I brought you something," Linda said, reaching into her bag. She placed a small souvenir on the counter. It was meant to be kind. It felt too late. "Thank you," Emma replied, her voice calm. Linda studied her face. "You seem different." Emma met her eyes. "I am." Linda frowned slightly, unsure. "How did things go while we were away?" Emma took a breath. She had imagined this moment many times. She did not rush it. "I booked my flight," she said. The words landed quietly but firmly. Linda blinked. "You what?" "I paid for it myself," Emma continued. I'm leaving next month. For a moment, Linda said nothing. Her mouth opened, then closed. Shock crossed her face, followed by something Emma had never seen before. Uncertainty. How did you afford that? Linda asked. Emma shrugged lightly. I worked. I sold some things. I planned. Linda leaned against the counter, clearly unprepared for this answer. You didn't tell me. I didn't need to, Emma said, not cold, just honest. The room fell silent. Linda looked away, then back again. You know I didn't mean to hurt you, she said quietly. Emma nodded once. I know. But you did. Linda swallowed. I was just trying to be practical. Emma held her gaze. So was I. That was when Linda understood. This was not an argument. There were no raised voices. No tears. Emma was not asking for approval. She was informing her. Linda sighed, the confidence she often carried slipping. I didn't think you would actually do it. I know, Emma replied. For the first time, Linda looked small. I guess I underestimated you. Emma did not smile. She did not need to. I won't stay behind again. Linda nodded slowly, the meaning settling in. There was regret in her eyes now, mixed with something else. Respect. That night, Emma returned to her room and closed the door gently. She sat on her bed, her heart racing, not from fear, but from relief. Saying the words out loud had made them real. Outside, the house moved on like normal. Inside, Emma felt steady. The girl who had been left behind was gone. And her mother finally understood what she had never expected. The day Emma left arrived quietly. There were no arguments, no dramatic goodbyes. The morning felt calm, almost gentle, like the world was giving her space to breathe. She packed the last of her things and zipped her bag slowly, taking a moment to look around the room that had held so many versions of her. Linda stood in the doorway, watching. She wanted to say something meaningful, something that could fix the past. But words felt small now. I'll drive you, she said. The car ride to the airport was silent, but not uncomfortable. Emma watched the city pass by, the streets she had walked so many times, the places where she had learned how to stand on her own. Each turn felt like a quiet goodbye. At the airport, people moved in every direction. Voices echoed. Screens flashed departure times. Emma felt a flutter in her chest, a mix of fear and excitement. This time, the feeling did not scare her. Linda hugged her, careful and unsure. Be safe, she said. I'm proud of you. Emma nodded. She believed it now. When she walked toward the gate, she did not look back. She did not need to. Boarding the plane felt unreal, like stepping into a life she had built with her own hands. As the plane lifted off, Emma closed her eyes. She thought about the moment she had been left behind. How broken she had felt. How small. And how that pain had pushed her to change. Her mother had refused to pay for a flight. But she had paid for her future. And that was the move no one ever expected.